everyone, Joe here from ActionX. Welcome to What's in the Two, where it's our show where we review things in the world of television. Sometimes we are doing episode by episode review on currently on air shows, or sometimes we're doing things like this where we're reviewing full seasons of TV shows, full spoiler capacity, no holding back, stuff like that. And this is one of those cases where I'm feeling old. We're talking about Walker season 1, the CW version of Walker, not Walker Texas Ranger starring Chuck Norris. This is the Jared Padalecki version, just to be clear. I mean, if you're clicking on the thumbnail, then it's Jared Padalecki, not Chuck Norris. Just so I'm just making sure that people are just thinking oh, it's just one of those clickbaits that Jared, it is what it is. I feel old because for me, I have reviewed Walker since the beginning. I've reviewed it since episode 1. Back in January of 2021, which again, to say that out loud, that I started reviewing that show at the very beginning, and we are now in April of 2024. I wanted to sink in for a second. It's now been more than 3 years since Walker premiered. And for me, as a person, I was still in my early 20s. And I say that like I'm old. I'm only 26. It's not as much has changed. A lot has changed in my life. I'm not trying to say anything from where I first started reviewing on that show to now, where we're on the precipice of season 4. We're about to start reviewing those episodes individually each and every week in a couple days. And I'm just and for us as a channel, after a few seasons, we go back and review the original season in a full spoiler capacity, because when we reviewed it the first time around, that was a spoiler free, so that people who had yet to watch the show could go watch that review and enjoy for what it is, and then jump into the actual show. Now this is just going full deep into spoilers because I wasn't able to do it back in 2021. And, as well as for me to, get back into the world because a lot of things have happened since Walker as a show has been on the air. The CW has rebranded to CW. There was a whole strike, so the show couldn't be filming. CW was already going through multiple changes beforehand, and Walker even still being a thing was up for questionability. But again, that's just the power of Jared Padalecki and his long lineage on the CW, which I think is the perfect way to kind of go back into it, where the conversation at the time was that this was not even a couple months after Supernatural wrapped, and Jared Padalecki was literally going straight into a brand new show, a brand new episode 1, new first season, new cast, and for the longest time, people had just associated Jared Padalecki as just being Sam Winchester. That's all you can see him as, because that's all he played for 15 years. He's done a couple of movie roles then and there, but his bread and butter was just doing Supernatural for 9-10 months out of the year, break, and then back to it. And for a long while, I just assumed it was similar to Grey's Anatomy, where we would just get Supernatural forever. And, the fact is, I still believe Supernatural could have stopped going. They talked about it. If they had changed the parameters of what made a Supernatural season work, being in the modern day of we don't need 22 episodes to tell a story. We could do 8 to 10, maybe even 13. They would have still stayed on board, but at the time, the mandate was we are going to produce full episode seasons for syndication. And again, that makes sense. When you're developing a TV show, it's a business practice. You're trying to make as much money on the back end. If it is successful, you're getting a lot of episodes to put out there. And if it's really successful, you get to that big 5-season, 100 episode milestone. Boom, you got a very sweet deal for syndication. But that's not the case here, where they steadily want to stick to the guns of it's got to be 22 episodes. They didn't want to do it. They left on their own terms, on their own merit, and Jensen went off to do multiple different projects. He's Batman, the animated stuff. He was in The Boys. He did a show called Big Sky for a season. He's done a lot of things, and Jared was kind of almost in the other zone, where he was kind of ready to kind of take a break with acting. And again, when you act consistently for 15 years, it can be tiring. And before anyone says but people with careers, they do that every day for every year till they retire. I understand that, but I guess it's a bit of a different breed. But the point I'm trying to make is that for many people, he is just Sam Winchester. So when he was announced to be playing Cordell Walker, portraying a character that Chuck Norris has played back in the I want to say the 70s or the 80s, or probably around that time period, and kind of giving, the CW spin on it. It was interesting to say the least. It was very much of an interesting direction for the network and for him in general. Like, I wasn't expecting that much, like a Walker Texas Ranger reboot with Jared Padalecki. I'll be like, what the part of my like, what the fuck? I'm like, I wasn't expecting that to a T. I'm like, that sounds kind of weird. And again, it goes back to the Tycaster where like, those first roles for RDJ, for Robert Downey Jr. after he finished playing Iron Man, it was a bit jarring because like for so long he's just been Tony Stark. That's all you can see him at. And then you go to like a recent work of his, like an Oppenheimer, where he like, oh my god, this is completely different. And it's not the same character, despite it being the same gravitas, being the same voice, being the same the same thing. The ability to kind of switch to a different character. It took like, it wasn't until like you had that moment, and obviously the difference between this is like, Jared's only, I mean, Jensen's only, I'm confused with the two. Jared has only done so much of his work, and like playing Sam for so long that going to Walker was for me, it was like, that was what the money was on. Like, how is he going to portray this differently? I try to withhold myself from the trailers at the time. I just wanted that first episode to really hit me, to really kind of get me sucked into this world. Because TV show trailers, they don't really do it for me anymore. They don't. Like, it's just like, it's only the first few episodes, so you're going to get everything in the first few, and then like after that, that's kind of it. So that's why I don't really pay attention to much of that anymore. But for Walker, it was a bit different, where like, all eyes were on this. Like, can Jared really make a post-Supernatural career work? And the spoiler answer, and that kind of relates to this review, is that yes, he could. I definitely found myself more enjoyable on this rewatch compared to the first one, considering the fact I knew where things are going. And that's just one of the benefits of like coming back after so long to something you already watched, to kind of relive it in the moment a little bit, where yeah, I very much was a bit taken aback at the story at the time. When I was reviewing it live, it was a bit jarring because like I had this sort of like TV-itis effect where like I kind of knew what the beat to beat should be for a television season and how you stretch a story from multiple episodes, especially on the CW. So I kind of had an idea what the show could have been, and it honestly surprised me at times. And now going back with the perspective of knowing everything that I need to know, definitely knowing what to expect, what the heck each character are talking about, and just knowing the whole story back and forth, I can definitely say that this was a really good season of television. I found myself really into the character of Jared's take on Cordell Walker. That again, now at this go around, I literally just watched a couple of clips in Supernatural, and it's so weird to go back to it, and I feel like you've hit that stage where like, oh shit, yeah, he did it. He managed to create two distinct characters from each other that it kind of works. It really works. To that I'm very to a very certain extent. Eventually, you really start like pointing down, like, okay, well, you could hear it, but like there's only so much you can do with your voice, really, and especially when you're doing it like you're the lead and you're carrying it a week by week sort of spiel. But I will say in terms of like the spoiler free aspect, I still have some care for people who haven't watched the show yet. I think in the spoiler free capacity, I think this is a very much a very fun show. This very much balances the line of being like having the family comedic moments, having those little like moments of levity, and then filling in with the dramatic stuff at times. The main story kept me engaged again, as always. Even if I knew what the heck was going to go on, it definitely did not feel like your traditional TV show. Maybe I haven't watched that many TV shows. Again, I've only watched maybe like 100 or 200 shows, so maybe I'm not that experienced. Who the hell knows? But I've watched all breeds, from cartoons to animes to 11-minute shows, 22-minute shows, 44-minute dramas. Like, I've been through all over the spectrum right now with that. So I think for me, I have a decent judge of character to how a story should go, and the fact that this kind of took it a little bit of a different approach and kind of gave every character, because it's a CW show, you have a huge ensemble. It's not just Jared, it's Jared and the rest of the characters. The Walker family himself, his Texas Ranger family, who also is part of his main family, his affiliates, all the characters. Like, I feel like this world is really much alive. I definitely had like not that many complaints about it, so to speak. Obviously, it's a CW show, so you're gonna have some CW tropes that you really can't get rid of, so to speak, kind of. And it just continues the age-old discussion of communication would be very much the key to like avoid a lot of problems. Like people could still be alive if you just talked. It's like I don't know. Maybe I'm just gonna keep that going to the day I eventually die. But no, nevertheless, I think Jared definitely does lead an amazing cast of characters that I had a lot of hesitation to back in the day. Now it just kind of seems like a seamless fit for all of them. Everyone has very engaging storylines. Everyone does have a role to play in the larger, like the main story, whether it's the story A or story B. Like everyone's got a role to play. Everyone's got a change by the beginning to the end, and I feel like it's very rare sometimes to have that sort of thing where like you usually have a character that's like cut over a little bit just to make room for another character. That's again one of the minor problems with ensembles, that you can't really give everyone the same effect. Besides the lead, who is like, again, he's the lead, he's supposed to have the most development out of all of them. But for me personally speaking, I think no, they managed to find a very nice divide between everyone. Everyone got a little bit of a moment then and there. And, for me, again, like the questionability of like, I would love to go back to 2021 and just like go back and explain to that joke. No, this show is going to be different, but it's going to be fun. It's going to be a lot of fun. I don't think this is one of the best shows I've ever seen before. I just got to put that out there. I've seen way better shows, but not to say the show's bad. I'm just saying that for what it is to be a reboot, a contemporary reboot in the modern day Texas with everything going on in the world with the CW trope, I think they do a pretty good job. Landing on 2 feet. Definitely Jared was the star. He definitely is the main lead, and thankfully they have a story to tell. And the one thing you gotta know about Jared is that between the 2 shows he's in, it's always about family. I actually just rewatched the teaser clip where he was like shortly after Supernatural, and then he was I just wrapped up the Winchesters. I'm ready to go over to the Walker fan, which I'm like, bro, you didn't even give us like a second to cry, to like really express that, oh my god, we're gonna miss you. Okay, maybe I'm going too far with that. But for me personally speaking, in spoiler-free capacity, I do think Walker is an enjoyable ride from start to finish. Definitely is a bit of a different type of storytelling, but it is still very much a good one to tell. There are going to be some moments where like I kind of roll my eyes over. It's a CW effect. Some being like writers and like editing, reasoning, and then some are like just like, yeah, it's a CW show, we're gonna have that in there. And yeah, honestly, nothing more I could say there on the spoiler-free front. So for me, I would recommend Walker, so please go check it out if you have Max, or you could purchase it on DVD right now. Yeah. But with that being said, let's get to it, to the actual like the meat of it. So again, spoilers inbound. If you haven't seen the first season of Walker, again, go check it out on Max right now. You can get the full season there. You can also buy it on DVD if you have the extra bucks to throw their way. But again, there you go. So the storyline mainly focuses around like the primary, like, the promotional storyline. What everyone was kind of like, leaning to was that Cordell has a wife, has kids, has a loving grandma, and a grandpa who's grumpy but still cares about. And they all live in Texas, like, not the perfect family, but you know what? Families don't have to be perfect. They're, as long as they're filled with love and, support and everything, that's all you really need in life. And the patriarch is Emily Walker. She is the wife of Cordell, Jared Padalecki's character, ironically played by Jen Padalecki, his real life wife. So I'm like, I see what you did. I see what you did there, Jared. I see what you did there. Trying to get your wife some work here. And again, she's a producer on the show too. So I'm pretty sure that was a given. And again, why cast an actress to play Jared's wife when Jared's wife is perfectly capable of holding her own 2 feet? And the mystery is because again, it's a show. You got to have some sort of mystery, some sort of thing to keep the plot going throughout the episodes. Is that Emily is killed. And we have to figure out at the end, like, is it really, like, it's not like your traditional, like, we're going through the murder. It's like, we have the murder at the very start of the show. It's like the very start of the show. We're not even like 5 minutes in, we kill off Emily. I'm like, damn. Like, let me just get some water because I'm about to say a lot of damn. Where I distinctly remembered when we were entering those first scenes, and I honestly thought that there was going to be 2 ways they were going to go with this. They were immediately going to jump to Cordell coming back from wherever he came from, or to the other extent where we're already in the middle of everything, the shit's hit the fan. No, we get a little tease, a little 2-minute tease of Cordell and Emily's, relationship. And again, how much of Jared and Jen's relationship they took from their personal life to the screen, I don't really know. I really can't tell you. Maybe a lot, who knows. But what I can say is that we immediately get a little taste of that, and then she's killed off. I was like, damn. I was like, okay, you know what? That's an interesting way. And then we just cut 11 months. And I'm like, okay, what? Yeah, and that's where, like, in terms of, like, the critical aspect, I'm like, just the way the pacing was in that one, like, that was kind of like the most rough cut. We are flash forwarding. We are going to, like, skip over some stuff for future proofing episodes. We are just primarily focusing on, what comes after, not comes before or during, what comes after. And it was an interesting direction, mind you. It very much was. It felt like we were trying, like, I still find that even during my rewatch, like, I don't quite vibe with that decision. I really don't. I feel like either we should have stuck it to a different way or kept it going a little longer, the pre, because it was kind of so hard to, like, see a happy Stella and happy August. And, like, again, movies do that in a much more shorter capacity. I do understand that. It just kind of, like, like, I'm trying to sell on the family dynamic, where, like, the little scenes we do get from this episode and then, like, the remaining episodes this season. Honestly, I would love to have seen a full episode with the Walker clan, with, like, this Walker family. I would have loved to see that. I would have loved to see their dynamic, to really feel for. Obviously, we would have been spoiled, like, yeah, Emily dies, but, like, it would have definitely been like, hey, like, here is the dynamic. Here is, like, how things are. We're like, when we get into, like, that first scene, it's just Cordell and Emily. We don't even see the kids. The kids are already inside with the grandparents ready for game night. And yeah, we do get to see that the before scene earlier on in another episode, but it was still like, like, I wanted to be sold that, like, this really meant something. This really did. And, like, I don't know, maybe, like, because I kind of crave that emotional connection, that emotional impact on my shows, that, like, maybe they could have done that a little differently. But then when you have that hard jump to 11 months, obviously you have much more, you have a lot of more dough to play with. Or, like, Cordell's been away for most of that time period. The kids have kind of been they lost their mom and they kind of lost their dad too. The grandparents were kind of thrown back into, like, being parents again to an extent. Well, they were always parents, but, like, primary parents. And then, yeah, so, like, we had a whole rich hodgepodge of, like, things going on in that time period. That, like, yeah, it's great for storytelling material. Like, you definitely get to, like, bounce off so many ideas off of there. But, like, again, like, it didn't feel earned. And again, we're starting off a series with a murder, with, like, the supposed, like, patriarch being killed, and then having Cordell Walker kind of have to be the new patriarch, where clearly he's not ready for that, and he's not. But it kind of gives, like, the kudos of, like, our protagonist isn't perfect. Like, despite, Jared's very tall height, his very rugged good looks, like, he's not perfect. He's very much a mess. He basically skipped therapy, which was mandatory for him to go be undercover and become a whole new persona. Like, just imagine how much that does to your psyche, where, like, you still have multiple things to process about the death of your wife, and then immediately you got to get thrown into, like, this undercover assignment where you have to be a new character, a whole new guy for, like, months on end. So how do you really, like, handle that thing, so to speak? Like, how do you really do that? And even he's like, yeah, he's aware of it, he knows what he did, and he's just like, it's the running away effect, where, like, the avoidance, where, like, he knows the problem, he knows what he has to do to fix the problem. He just doesn't want to fix the problem because he's scared of fixing the problem, because he has to confront so many things, as well as kind of, like, the person he kind of, like, let aside for a while. And, sometimes, like, in life, like, things come along at the right opportunity, and, that's kind of how things get started, where, like, he returns back. His old partner is now the new captain of the Rangers, so he has to get a new partner, which he gets in a new recruit in Mickey Ramirez, and that kind of begins the whole story of not only Cordell finding himself again, reuniting with his family, but slowly realizing that his wife's case wasn't exactly perfectly shut as he thought it would be. I do apologize. I have a lot I have a lot of talking to do, and my throat's already. I came from work, so I do apologize. So yeah, from there, like, again, from like the primary story, that's kind of like where we split off, where like that's somebody put Baldo, where like, when you begin the actual show, like Emily's death is already solved. Like supposedly this Carlos Mendoza guy already killed her. He's in jail. He's in prison for that already. The case is done. We're in the middle of moving on from it, like processing it emotionally, but moving on. But Cordell, like, he's got that gut feeling in him. That's what makes him a great Texas Ranger, and that takes a while for him to fully get back to it. Where he feels like, nah, something's still wrong here. Like, there definitely is something missing here. That like that little voice in the back of your head's like, it's not quite done yet. It's not quite done yet. And everyone's just like calling him crazy, and I'm very happy that they didn't follow certain approach, because I feel like the way some of the promotion material at the time kind of made it seem like the husband killed the wife or whatever, and like, well, it's kind of hard in this case because like there were 4 witnesses, and like he's a Texas Ranger, which I know doesn't really mean anything nowadays, but like even if you're a position of authority, you still could have done it. But like the case of it, like why is Cordell looking into this? Like, it just feels like he just doesn't want to let go. He can't move on from it, and that kind of creates that interesting storyline for him, where like he is aware he needs to move on, but there's just certain pieces that it's kind of preventing him to doing that, and that whether it's with his family or like slowly meeting the characters in his life, that it kind of becomes reminded to why he doesn't want to move on, why he doesn't want to do so. And at the same time, some things that, some of the mistakes we made comes back to bite us, which is the undercover storyline that he went under. Like, that's not one of those, like, it's those storytelling methods to kind of just move over. Nah, it's a real thing. Like, it does come back to bite him in the ass eventually. And, having 2 separate storylines kind of keeping everything going, it kind of creates this whole uniformity where, like, again, even though it's not related to the murder at all, it is very much a response to how Cordell felt about the murder, where like he was not in that right mind space. He was not ready to be a father again full time. He was not ready to fully be a ranger there, because he was just not there. Everyone handles grief differently. Everyone becomes, their response to that sort of tragedy, it's different. And you kind of have to like kind of play it close to the chest when that does happen, especially when you have people that are under your care, especially when you have children. Mind you, like, again, I don't hope to ever be in that situation, but like I could kind of see it happening in terms of like what is the understanding process of it, especially when you lose someone you love like that. But again, like going back to like just the story in terms of like just how the pacing is, not to get too much into it. Again, it was interesting to kind of balance the 2 storylines, but as sometimes, like, we're focusing primarily on the undercover storyline. And so we're focusing back on the Emily storyline. And then, at time we're crafting new storylines, obviously based on the other character, because it's not just about Cordell Walker. We have his family. We have his kids, Stella and August. We have his grandparents. Well, his parents, their grandparent, Bon and I forgot the grandma's name. I forgot. Madeline, I forgot the name. It starts with A. I'm within the ballpark there. You have Liam, his brother, then you have like the fellow Rangers, Mickey has already mentioned before, her boyfriend Trey, and then you have the Captain James. Well, again, like, they just keep building so many great characters, especially Hoyt. Oh my God, Hoyt was he was the breakout character, and then I'm not surprised whatsoever they kept them around, whether it was like in more flashbacks later on in the show, and then even like creating like a prequel character for him in the prequel show, which I'm like, you know what? Kudos to that. Kudos to them for finding a really great actor for them. Kudos to them on that. Definitely when you find that actor that works for your show, you take it. You take it as a win. But yeah, but again, like the way like that I was pitching it was that I thought that would have kept going a lot longer. We could have gotten more filler episode to kind of pad out things to kind of get to where it is, because when the show launched, it was so successful, and they got the season 2 renewal early at that time, and it got renewed for 5 more episodes in the first season. So I honestly thought it was going to be the tradition. Okay, 1 to 13 was our original story. Okay, we're going to move 12 and 13 to 17 and 18, and then we're going to add like 6 more episodes, kind of stretch some scenes out so it all kind of feels natural. But either we're going to expand on certain characters, give them more development, or put more filler episodes. But no, they did a different approach. Like, at least how I viewed it, like it felt like the first 13 was telling its own story. And then the back 5 was kind of like expanding it in that weird, like, you feel like it's an expansion. It's clear as day. It doesn't feel like season 1, but it doesn't feel like season 2. But it also works organically in the season 1 story, that it kind of all blends in together, which I'm like, it's kind of rare for that to happen. It's really rare. I don't see that often. I don't think I've seen it since, where just how short that storyline was. Not short, like, to the extent, but like for me in my brain, like, they wrapped up the undercover stuff, everything from Cordell's past in the show, in those 13 episodes. I thought they were just going to stretch it out, give Stella more time with the boy Trevor, or keeping the tension going. Like, they could have really stretched that out a little longer, but they didn't. They just told a very tight story that worked, and as well as kind of like pivot the way for the next 5 for that back 5 episodes, that it all makes sense. And I'm like, damn, like it really does work. It really does. But again, just my only conditional thing was just the hard launch we had. And then just suddenly, the only thing is that, oh, Emily's killer is not this person. Wait a little bit. No, it's that person. Wait a little bit. No, it's really that person. And I'm just like, damn, okay, we get it. Like, 1 is okay, 2 is fine, 3 is enough. Like, we don't need to add more supposed killers to Emily's list. Like, it's only 1 woman. Like, we don't need like that many, like, instruments of like, just like, there was a lot going on with that. They really added a little bit too many layers to that. But it's also one of those moments where, like, you get that, like, the full circle moment where, like, you get to see everything as it happens. You get to really understand what the chain of events really was. They kind of did, like, kept that in the back end for so long a little bit, but when we did see it, it timed itself perfectly to where the characters were out of the season, because it not only just had to, like, the story had to happen for it to happen, it also was beneficial to how the characters were able to take from that experience and learn, which, should happen in every TV show, but the way it was effectively done, where, like, the characters that I'm pretty sure you would have told all this stuff to back at the beginning of the show would not have been, like, the same reactful way had it not been now. So, again, like, I definitely felt like, they managed to do enough in terms, like, for TV show standards to, like, keep us engaged in the story throughout the 18 episodes. I did have some critiques with some of the pacing and some of the ways they set up certain plot lines. That was like my really only criticism on that front. But then going to the characters, you have such a mass where, like, I really don't know where to start. But I will start with Hoyt. Hoyt is not in the main cast, but I did want to talk about him because, Hoyt's our boy. He came into that episode in a stripper costume, and I'm just like, this guy is he's gonna be a hit. He's gonna be a hit. From the moment I first saw him back when I was first watching the show, I just knew this guy was gonna be a hit. He was gonna resonate somehow, and it really worked. It really, really worked. It's kind of like that, the lovable criminal, where, like, he's doing bad things. He's not really a good guy, but you just love his personality. He's just a fun guy to be around, and like, even Cordell, like, even though that's his best friend, it's like, yeah, I kind of know you're kind of a piece of crap sometimes. Like, but if it wasn't for his, like, old mother for, like, actually taking him in as, like, the third son she never had, it definitely would have been like, damn, like, I would have loved to, like, adopt this boy, because, it's the Boy Meets World, like, thing where, like, the parents have their own the nice kids, and then they're one of their kids is friends with, like, a delinquent, but they love the delinquents, and they kind of, like, pseudo adopt them. That's kind of like the same the same analogy I'll play there, where it just works out like that, really, really much so. And, I very much was like, I was very pleased with his storyline. We didn't get too much of him, but we didn't get a lot of him. They didn't overuse him. They could have easily just, like got him out of prison the next season and, like, promoted him season 2, but they didn't. He had a role to play. They knew the popularity, but they just, like, we have a storyline. We're going to stick to it. We're going to, like, really hold our guns to it. And we're going to tell that story. And we definitely did. And then the other recurring character, which I will talk about, even though that she didn't really, like, they didn't really affect this. Like they affected, but like they weren't part of the season one cast for a reason. Was Jerry, which was like in the circle of friends. It was Jared and Emily and kind of Hoyt and Jerry were like they could have been together. They should have been together, but they just didn't work. Jerry was the good girl, and then Hoyt was the bad boy, and it was just like they were fighting it for so long. They really, really were. Honestly, she is the best friend that anyone would want to have. Her and Cordell's banter is really nice to see. Getting that early friendship vibe in like adulthood. It's like so hard to find nowadays. You mostly stick with your adult friends, and that is what it is. Or make new friends as you get older. But the way she works, her sass, or but still being the angel. She's still the voice of reason. She's still the Auntie Jerry for a reason. Definitely she's still very much important to the Walker family, even if she's not directly related to them. It still kind of counts to that regard. And definitely Odette Tully, I think that's her actress's name. She does know how to keep a character on her toes. Definitely seeing her. I saw her in Supergirl in season 3. She played the main villain for that one, and her here were there was more I don't know. She kind of has this, some things not lining up, so to speak. So it very much was a questionable, is that really, did we really know the true change? It kind of kept you on your toes. Who do you really trust? Who do you really know? And then even by the end of it, when we knew yeah, that was, that was great to see. Was I a fan of her pairing up with Cordell at the end? I feel it was kind of the easy choice. I'll say that much. Where okay, we kind of finished. Hoyt's gone. The Emily stuff's kind of we moved on from that. Is she just going to be the supportive amp that we just write new stuff every season? No, but again, sometimes when you're close with someone from that age, there can be other feelings that maybe you don't recognize at the time because you kind of, it's not what you need in the moment. Then eventually, once time kind of moves on, it's like, okay, you know what? I kind of see where they're going with it. I kind of see. So, I wasn't a fan of that decision. It was just of how much the skip around, like I said, communication would solve so many problems where they don't talk about it. The kiss happened, then other things happen, then the crisis happens, and more things happen, and then they just avoid it, and they avoided the end of the day. And I'm like, okay, you know what? C'est la vie, let that be. I accept it. It is what it is by that point. I'll just leave it as may be for next time around, and but definitely she does make her presence known. She does contribute a lot to the characters of the cast. Definitely in that whole while not there often, her impact is always felt, which is one of the important roles for recurrings to do. Where they're not supposed to be there that often, but when they are, it's very much is important, and you feel and you want to see more of that, which we'll talk more about that next time. Now going to the actual characters in the main cast, I guess Captain James is kind of the least. Where James is I have an interesting history with I saw the actor in The Gifted, which was a Fox Marvel show at the time. I think before the whole superhero TV purge happened a couple years ago. It was that. I forgot what his character was. Now I think he was in government or something like that. So I'm coming here to play another government character. It was funny, to say the least. And I was okay, I was interested. Okay, dude, I'm gonna see you again. Let's see how you do here. I really do enjoy him. We're he's literally nearly the perfect example of having your best friend be your boss. We're yeah, he knows what he's got to do. He knows that here's what I'm able to do. Here's what I'm not able to do. But he's able to bend the lines of I'm not gonna be a fucking dick to my old partner. He is my old partner. I'm still looking out for him, but I'm still upholding the duties of being the captain. And, that definitely, has to be played at times where he's got to make some tough choices where he knows Cordell's onto something with Emily. He cares about the family, but at the same time, it's his job to do things by the book. And if Cordell's going to do things out of book, that kind of creates that conflict of interest between them. So getting those moments where very much, entertaining to say the least, that, it didn't follow the traditional asshole of a captain type of ordeal. It definitely was more Yeah, he's got his moments, but he's still like very much like a respectable human being that still has like a heart and soul, um, mind you to it. And his humor is a bit dry, which is good because like we don't need too many comedians on the damn show, but whatever is greatly appreciated. But still, like just seeing him in that position where um he's just able to like do what's right, but at the same time, actually manage to fulfill the family. But we don't get really too much of his backstory. There's a lot going on with like the walkers and everything. So I'm like, we don't get too much of him, to be honest with you. We meet his son briefly in the back five, but other than that, he really isn't doing too much on his own accord, mind you. He's just kind of following the orders of the show, mind you. But definitely, it is something that like people did over here and like, hey, we really like this guy, and we really did like this guy, and we got to see more of him down the road as we progress further with the show. Then you have Trey, who I for the longest time on the review series I was confusing him with Trey or Troy, and I'm like, damn, like why is it so hard to remember what his damn name is? And I'm like, it's Trey. It definitely is Trey. It's one of those like my brain sometimes like it just kind of fizzles out and kind of like just it just stops for a second, which honestly a fun factor I didn't know of, because so I was rewatching the Rookie season 2 before Rookie season 6 came out, which is in the same analogy of that's like reviewing a whole season of a show in a spoiler full capacity before the new season comes out. I had no idea he was on the Rookie, and I'm like, damn, they need a good-looking guy that could play a firefighter. Great. You know what? In this show, we needed a good-looking guy to play a former army soldier. That's great. That was like perfect casting right there. But like it's not just the muscles. He does have and that is not just a smile. He does have brains. He does have purpose. He does have a kind heart deep down where he's coming back from duty. He wants to be with his girl. Obviously, this wasn't planned out. This was never planned out from the beginning, but he was very much hopeful that this would be a place for him to call home. And, slowly it is. Definitely, we don't get one of those traditional, like, hey, you need to move out. We need to take a break. Like, no, definitely, it's something they work out. Again, that was one of the rare times where, like, communication was key. It actually did help them out, which I'm like, thank you. Can we please get more of that, please? Please and thank you. And with Trey, more speaking, like I immediately learned quickly that like that this is not going to be your traditional storyline where like he wants to immediately go back into the service. It's not like he's craving for service. No, he was just craving for purpose. He was craving like that sense of belonging. What does he really want to do? And him being a high school coach probably wasn't in his wheelbarrow, but you know what? He's got that athletic body. He knows how to give orders. Give the guy a whistle. Give him some joggers, and I'm like, yeah, that kind of really works out to a T. And he is just such like I think he's like the perfect man goals where like he's got the body, but he's got the kind heartedness. He's supportive. He's very patient. Very rarely where he does blow up. He definitely knows how to keep his cool in check, which again, even some people in this day and age doesn't really have that, mind you. So him being able to like, have that very much was appreciated. It definitely did help him in terms of his character to be a really nice, caveat for Mickey going for her own stuff. Troy doesn't really have, I'm literally doing it again. Like Trey doesn't, okay, going back to Trey doesn't have a lot to do per se, in terms of his own storyline. They definitely gave him something to work on after the hurricane episode with his injury, and then eventually kind of awakening the idea of like, what do I really want to do in the long term? Like being a high school coach is great, but like that's not gonna like like that can be a sustainable goal for the future. Like there will always be kids that need to be coached, but I'm like is that really a forever job? Is that really what he wants to do? And those are definitely questions for him to answer. And also just the question of the future of like, where does the future lie for me? Is it with Mickey? Is it with someone else? I won't spoil much about that after that point, but still just saying like, he definitely has much to think about, but definitely he is a very great foil for Mickey and definitely served a very nice counterpart to her. Mind you about that, which I think perfectly goes into Mickey as a character where, shout out for Hispanic Latinx representation again. CW vet, she was on the 100, but going here, playing like second the co-partner with Cordell Walker. Yeah, she definitely is an interesting pairing with Cordell, where she's finally in this position where like she worked so hard to finally get to this moment where she is a Texas Ranger, and then you have Cordell, who is like kind of been known to breaking some of the rules at times, so that could jeopardize, that could fall back negatively on Mickey, because she's very much on the book. She's very much trying to keep this job going so that she can set a good example for others out there who wish to to reach this point in their career. And definitely, mind you, again, like it was the right pacing with especially with her relationship with Cordell, that kind of it sold their eventual friendship down beneath, because eventually, like when you're partnering up with someone, like if you're gonna spend a lot of time together, like yeah, eventually you're gonna be friends, like eventually you're gonna talk, you're gonna have your own banter. And Cordell may have tried to force that hand a little bit too many times, like for safety reasons, but he definitely was trying to give the benefit of a doubt to her, trying to give her more of the, hey, we are together on this, so we really should like trust each other fully, which does mean opening up to each other, especially when we get to that when Cordell's about to have his DPS meeting, and then they meet the psychiatrist that they hired on duty, which was Mickey's mother. That episode was kind of important for their development, since like Mickey is very much not a reserved person. She can't trust someone if she has to, but like definitely not when like she's at this current level in her career where like she's trying to keep things stable. She's trying not to risk it all. And then here comes Cordell, who is a lovable doofus who knows how to do his job, and eventually he kind of gets her to warm up to him, and then eventually the rest is history on that front. But other than that, it's not just Mickey. It's not just focusing on her personal relationship with Cordell, as the two become slowly more and more, of a good partnership team. Definitely relying on each other and trusting them. The other side of things for Mickey is that she gets a storyline where she figures out her mom wasn't really her mom. It's like there's this whole thing where like no, her mom's sister was actually her mom, and then she had a bad history with drugs, and like there was just a safety factor when it comes to like raising a child in that environment. And after so many years of being apart, like is that really something you still want to do? Like like when you're past the age of 18, maybe even 21, 22, like you relatively don't need a parental figure in your life anymore. Like you're kind of grown up, like it's appreciated, but like you're kind of self-sustaining already. So was her example was, does she really need a mom? But at the same time, is there really any like real reason for her mom to be in her life anymore? Like that's all up in the air, because like people have been in the situation before where like I don't have to, like I've been living my life just fine without them. I could keep living well without them if I keep going. There's never a guarantee that it's going to like really work out. It could be horrible. You could find out the real reason why it was just never meant to be. There's so many things that can happen, and I think the way that they actually managed to like kind of make it all work was like it was natural. It was like slow going. Definitely the filler side of things allowed to expand it a little bit more, giving them more of an opportunity to really grow that one out. And it helps Mickey as a character, because like she learned of trauma she never really had before until she realized it, and then once she was able to kind of get through that, it kind of made her really value what she did have in the present, so not to repeat certain mistakes that her predecessors managed to do when it was their turn in a similar situation. So definitely, but for me, like I'm a big fan of Lizzie Morgan, and I definitely think that she really sold the character very, very well. And if Cordell wasn't on the show, if this was just a Mickey show, I would just definitely be down for it. I would be fine for that spin-off, which won't happen, but still. Then getting into the Walker family proper, you have Bonham, which, ironically speaking, the actor who plays Bonham Walker actually played Jerry Padalecki's, character of Sam Winchester's grandpa on Supernatural. So I guess enough time has passed. We're like, okay, now you've been promoted. You're no longer Jerry Padalecki's grandpa. You're his dad. And I'm just like, okay, can I see that happening? And I'm like, yeah, I could possibly see it. I don't know how you go from like a pretty a bald man to a pretty great straight head of hair on both of your children, but like either way, it's like you see the avenues there. He is very much your traditional like stoic father figure, where like Yeah, he's not an emotional guy. He just knows how to do the right things. He kind of knows when to give the right advice, but just not like the, the soft kind of way, just being a little bit more brash about it, which is respectful. Um, Definitely he likes to keep to himself. He's kind of had this like, very, set way of like living life, and then obviously things happen which are tragic, but like it kind of does impede on his, his own personal life. It kind of really does uproot some of like, the just how things were on the farm life before everything did happen. And especially once you get closer to the season where like he found out that his wife cheated on him multiple times with another man, but he's still with her, which I'm like, I still don't understand that. I really don't. Like, I really do not understand that storyline whatsoever. But like, you know what? Even after 2 watch throughs, maybe I'll never get it. Maybe in the 3rd watch through, maybe I'll understand. Who knows? That still kind of like leaps over my head and shoulders on that one. I'll just be completely honest with you on that one. But I feel like, especially towards the end where like, they bring up the storyline with his cancer and like just kind of like a factor of the reason why he is the way he is. Just like he just doesn't want anyone to be involved in his problems. He doesn't want to be a burden on anyone. Even though they are his family, that's just kind of like the way, the mentality, like just deal with it with yourself and it'll be fine. Sometimes it's just not. Sometimes you kind of need that like the supportive hand to kind of keep you going to like whatever the next point is on that storyline you're trying to be on. Abby's just Grandma Golds. She very much is just like, she's everyone's grandma. She just wants to be helpful. She wants to be loving. She wants to be caring. Again, like, definitely sells that role just right. Cheating storyline aside, I did not know, like, that was just a right turn like that. I didn't really expect. And I feel like the thing that I took away from that was that it just goes to show you really don't know someone until like you get to know. We all have secrets, whether we're proud of them or not. Like, we have them. And, definitely she tried to like do her best to just kind of, just be that supportive anchor for everyone to come home to. And sometimes even she has her moments of like, yeah, like, she ain't gonna take it. She isn't gonna stand around and just take it who she is. Like, she's gonna do what she has to do, whether it's the smartest decision or not. But definitely she does learn from it. It definitely does make hers and Monahan's relationship even more stronger down the road. And definitely it's something that was kind of, it was needed. And also it was kind of funny because how very much close she was to Hoyt, which is ironic considering the fact in the prequel show where like the first Walker, well, the first name like Walker, who's also named Abigail, had a very close companionship to Hoyt's ancestors, which I'm like, if that had anything to do with it, that'd be funny. But like, still, like, that's just one of the issues. Like, I wish that Walker Independence had gone a little longer because, like, I would have loved to see that. Still love to see that keep going a little longer, but we didn't. So it is what it is on that front. But just missed opportunity over there. To Liam, Liam was like, again, like kind of like that weird like, I never trusted him from the beginning, and then like I think it was like around episode 3 or 4. We're like, okay, I can trust him. I can trust this man now. I believe him to an extent. I'll believe him. He was more along the lines of like, similar to like, he was the brother that got away. He was the one who left the nest, forged a whole new life in New York, which used Texas backdrops to make it a convincing New York. Sorry, sir, it is not New York City. You're clearly somewhere in Texas, but I do appreciate you for trying. It kind of reminds me, Liam's story at the beginning kind of hits close to home a little bit. I won't get too much into details about that, but just like, when you have that whole new life squared away and then something happens back home and you realize, okay, I really need to go back. Like, that's where I'm needed, regardless of how things may turn out. I need to go. And he goes, and, he has a whole series of elements that happens over there with, especially with the 11-month gap of like, how close he got with his niece and nephew, especially with his niece, of how, how much he can relate to them, to an extent, like, how much they can have in common at the end of the day, of just how close that, family can be, even if they're not directly related to you. That's still directly, but just not the way that it was meant to be. But definitely he goes through a lot. Definitely he makes some very tough calls at the cost of his own his own well-being. But he does know what right is right, and definitely him having to step up multiple times to be, to an extent, the the face of the family to kind of, fill in when Emily and Cordell are not there, whether it's on purpose or not. Definitely showcased him more as, just someone that, he does care about family. He does have his morals straight in a line, and definitely he's trying to do the best he can to like really let things go. But I was actually a little bit scared when they shot him in the 12th episode, which I'm like, damn, I know you ain't gonna kill him off, but still, like, damn, that you got some balls for like almost trying to. Plus, he's got lungs of steel, like kind of keep holding on, clinging to life, long after you lost so much blood, long after just so much has happened. Like, I'll give him some credentials there. I'll definitely give him some credentials. Then going into like the kids, August. Oh my god, I have a problem with him. Okay, let me rephrase. Character wise, again, he feels like, yeah, he is Cordell's child. Where like he's got that still awkwardness in him. He's still got like, stutters with his words. He just is longing for a break. He's longing for like that way to fit in, to find that place where he belongs, and then going to like his new surroundings in high school, and then finding his first crush, and then everything sort just having it all feel into place. Like, it's surprising what storyline surprising he did have, and some he didn't have. I find that at least the surprising part in my books, just about that. But just how valuable he is in the story. Like sometimes he's the one who keeps the plot going, who keeps moving it from A to B, kind of putting Cordell back into like certain positions, with how he was in his undercover days, or like just in other avenues. Mind you speaking, he is also very much of an idiot, like most high school teens are. I think he's the biggest idiot. And again, I said this before in that review series. I'm gonna say it again. Because the girl he has a crush on, like the real girl has a crush on, at least one other person was interested in him, but the one he was really interested in, it's the same old ignoring him. Kind of was there, like the way they kind of wrote that was kind of like, yeah, bro, she only used you, like, like, okay, like maybe there was some genuine feelings there, but at the same time it was like kind of like a weird like 360. Maybe because I didn't have that experience in high school. Maybe I don't really know about that really per se. Who really knows how it really is? But like, there was a moment in the penultimate episode where he was dead straight, basically told, you get to kiss the girl you've been pining for. You get to sleep with her. And, like, if you're not ready for a relationship, hey, she's going to leave. This is like a very much like, not an easy out, but like very much like, you can try it. And if it doesn't work, there is literally no major repercussions. And again, some people say he took dignity. He's like, he did it right. He's going to save his first kiss. He's going to save his first love. And I'm like, dude, this girl is literally throwing herself at you. Like, the house is empty. If you're writing a CW show, like any other situation, they would be boating, and they didn't. And again, I know that's a weird thing to say, because like, they're at this point, they're just teens. But okay, first of all, y'all have seen 13 Reasons Why. Y'all have seen Riverdale. Y'all have seen so many high school related shows, and y'all talk about it. So I'm like, don't even put me in that corner there. Don't even put me in that corner there. But what I will say is that, I will forever hold him to that. Like, that's the biggest mistake you made. That was your future character development. I'll talk about that in the future. But like, for now, that was your biggest mistake. That was your biggest mistake, boy. But other than that, August is definitely just, he's trying to find his place. He definitely does care about his dad a lot. Again, I can relate to that, being of how close I am with my own father. And, that he's just trying to like, be like him, trying to be with him. And like, sometimes he's going to make mistakes, because we're human beings. We're not perfect, mind you. Same with Stella, who like, took a much more rebellious path, after everything happened at the start of the show. Got into more drinking, got into more, attention seeking shows. Cause at the end of the day, similar to August, she just wants her dad home. That's all she wants. Even though like, they've, had some missteps and like, kind of had to, pivot to a different direction. She always just wanted her family back home. She just wanted to kind of be in that new safety, comfort of life. That's all she wanted to do, regardless of the decisions that she had to make to get there. And, some were reasonable, some weren't, especially, her going gaga over her first real love in a boy, who happens to be the son of the person that Walker put away not that long ago. Again, interesting storyline, interesting like that Romeo and Juliet kind of like, correlation, mind you, but that really, in the same time, like, I don't know how really else to explain it, but still, like, to see that, like, work for like, and to kind of see her storyline develop from that point, trying to, like, hold on to what's right and trying to change this boy, trying to change herself, was all very much intriguing to see how that all lined up to how it worked out, the maturity level she had to feel towards the end of, like, growing up and kind of like having to know when to put something away, to know when to put something back in the hole, back in, like, the mindset, like, kind of like, just now it's time to keep moving forward about that, just to figure out what truly is next for you, regardless of, like, if you have a direction or a heading or not. And then finally, Cordell, like, our main lead, our main guy, so much has happened to him, definitely him bouncing between the Emily storyline, then the undercover storyline, just trying to be a family dad again, trying to be the patriarch for this family, trying to keep everyone together in a way, trying to do what's right, but at the same time trying to be a dad. Like, it was just so much for him to handle. He had so much thrown into his plate, being a single dad after so long. Like, there was just so many things that he had to think of, so many things he probably never thought he had to think of. And definitely, but, at the end of the day, he was trying a lot. He tried so hard to be there for his kids, and sometimes it didn't really work out. Sometimes it did. Like, he really tried his hard. He really did. And, that's where the points of credibility come into place, where, like, he just knows what to do eventually. It does take some time. Main protagonist saying, like, it's not always ASAP that they figure it out. You need to give them an episode or two before they realize, oh, damn, that this is what I got to do, not this other way. But no, definitely speaking on that front, like, I definitely think Jared sold the role very well. I never seen the original Chuck Norris interpretation of the character many decades ago. But I feel like the Cordell version, the Jared Padalecki version, he's not a perfect guy. He definitely was not perfect from at any stretch of the imagination, but just the way he speaks of, like, he's still flustering with his words. He's still figuring things out. Like, he's never really been one to really give orders to an extent. He's always been, like, receiving orders, and he still does at times, but very much, like, he still wants to have that rebellious side of him, which kind of just makes him a much more engaging character, a much more fun-filled character to, like, see week to week and see how that's all gonna carry out, so to speak. His private conversation with, like, the ghost of Emily, okay, I can see what you were trying to do with that, but definitely was, like, one of those weird things where, was that really necessary to say? I really don't know. But my only one real critique on the performance is that they have a flashback moment when they do the car episode, when Hoyt's introduced, and they have young Cordell and young Emily, and I'm just like, y'all couldn't just get new people? Because I'm gonna be honest with you, these people, they do not look in their 20s. I'm being completely honest with you. There's no undoubtable future. And I know Toby played Spider-Man, Andrew played Spider-Man when they were in their near 30s, playing a very much of a 16, 17-year-old character. I do understand it, but, like, there's just no way I believe these characters are teenagers at all. I just cannot. That's just, like, I think the biggest negative thing I can say about it. Like, they should have just spent the money and casted someone else. I do understand. They're the leads. They're good looking. It doesn't work out. It just really doesn't work out. But for all intents and purposes, I really, really enjoyed Walker. I really, really did. I think the creative team and, Jared Padalecki, they knew what they were doing with this interpretation. It was not like a CW Walker. It very much felt like Walker on the CW, where, like, it was doing its own thing. You kind of see what they were doing, but at the same time, it keeps you surprised on what they're able to do and what they want to do in every given moment of the show. And definitely that is something that I really do respect out of them. I really, really do. This could have been a completely different show, but they went with their gut and they did the show that they wanted to do, even with some minor pacing problems. But with that all being said, I'm giving this my highest recommendation of go watch it. If you got an empty week, I would highly recommend to go binge it if you want to. It definitely is worth the binge. Let me know in the comments below what you think of the first season of Walker. Spoiler filled capacity. Would love to hear your thoughts down below. Love to talk to you about that. As always, down there. But I believe that's going to do it for me today, everyone. So if you're unaware, this has been What's the Two from ActionX reviewing the first season of Walker. If you want to know what we're doing normally, What's the Two besides our Walker reviews. Tomorrow we're back with The Rookie, so go check that out there. We do Rookie reviews each and every Tuesday or whenever I'm able to see the episode, like last week. But if you don't care about Walker, you're in luck. We'll be back this Wednesday with our season 4 premiere review. I have not seen a single trailer for it. I'm so excited. I've only seen the promo photos because I had to pick out one for the thumbnail. But other than that, I really don't know what's going to happen. I really don't know. I'm literally jumping all in there, and I can't wait to see how do we jump back to it? How do we really get back into that world again after so long? But again, thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't yet, like, favorite, share if you want to, and ring that bell. But until we see each other again, thank you so much for watching. But until that moment, stay safe out there, be good to each other, and as always, peace out.